Hey everybody, so I have just come back from finishing the initial drive testing of my 2021 BMW M2 Competition that now has an unlocked and tuned DME. And for those of you who aren't familiar, about mid-2020, Bosch, the supplier of the DMEs or ECUs to BMW, implemented a new bootloader which made it incredibly difficult, basically not at all, to tune these DMEs. So all these, mid-2020 and newer cars, they have not been able to be tuned up until very, very recently. And there are actually two methods by which you can go about unlocking and getting a tuned DME. The first is by a company called CMD Flash Tech. They've recently developed a tool, demonstrated it in Europe, where they have been able to unlock these previously unlockable DMEs. Although word on the street is they were able to pay off a Bosch engineer for either the know-how or the security keys to do that. The second method is the one that I have used, and a very, very brilliant friend of mine came up with the idea saying, well, why can't we just take one of these older DMEs, right? Grab a used one off of eBay or something. I paid a couple $100s for mine. And, clone all of the necessary data from the stock DME. And the reason why you would need to do that is because, these DMEs and vehicles, they all have to have identification information that matches up. So you can't just plug and play a DME from a different car into yours. You'll get a bunch of different errors and it probably won't even start. So we went about, getting a couple spare DMEs and doing some testing on them for that method. And well, we found out you can make an unlocked DME, put it in here and make it tunable. So now I will roughly walk you through what we did, the method my very, very intelligent friend came up with to put an unlocked DME into this car. So for the new DME that would be going into the car, you have to write a fair amount of data to it from the old DME. These control units are not plug and play. You can't just toss a new one in. There are specific identification information that is loaded into the DME, and if the other modules in the car don't all have the same car identification information, well, things don't play nicely with each other. So there are two ways to get this. The first way is to pull the old DME out, send it to someone who can actually do that. But there's actually an easier control module to access and get, because taking out the DME on one of these things is kind of a chore, and you can see my other video about that. So let's go see what that other module is. Okay, so I am down here in the passenger side footwell right now. And the module, instead of getting the DME to get all of that, vehicle identification info, is right behind this kick panel here, and that is the front electronics module, or FEM. And taking a DME out to get the same information is easily a half a day to a day job, especially depending on your skill level and familiarity with it, which most people are not. But getting the FEM out, well, that's relatively quick, and it's not too bad. Like if you're really unfamiliar with it, maybe it'll take you 2 hours. If you are familiar with it, you can easily get it out in under an hour. So once you have the FEM out of the car, you will have to send it to somebody that's kind of a specialist, right? They're going to have to be able to hook up to the FEM out of the car, read the necessary identification data out of it, so that that can then be written to the new DME that you're going to replace it with. So if this is your only car, you probably want to find some time that you can be down without your car, maybe over a weekend or extended holiday or something. If this is a second, third, whatever car, well, just budget for that time sending the FEM out and for it to come back. Now, when you do get a tune, there are some things in the DME that you will probably want to set to the same value as your stock tune or original DME. So here we are looking at 2032, and this is the Cal ID and CVN read. And so if I zoom in here, you can see right there we have the Cal ID and CVN. And what we did is we read this out on the stock DME, stock tune, and then on the new DME with new tune, we went ahead and we made this checksum value the same. And the reason why you would do that is because looking at this checksum is one of the ways that the dealer and smog stations and so forth would try and see whether or not you're tuned. So this saying, having this particular ID, anyone who hooks up to it is going to say, oh yeah, this looks like a stock tune. In addition to that, there are other values stored in here, such as like, the flash counter and the flash date. And those are some other things that when, my friend was making this tune for me, he made exactly the same as the original tune. So now let's go ahead and take a look at ISTA, and I'm on the, and as you can see, right, like I only have 2 faults, and those are completely unrelated to the DME, and there's things I absolutely expect because I coded out ASD, and I have the M Performance V2 steering wheel, which no longer has a heating function. So you can see after replacing the DME, I have no errors whatsoever, nothing saying there's DME tampering or whatnot. So this thing is good to go, and like I said, I've already driven this. I know the car starts, I know it drives well. All right, so we are on the road right now, blasting around, testing this tune out, and let me tell you, this makes the car pretty spicy. I mean, one of the things I really like about this is I have the entire rev range now. It's not like the stock tune that just kind of falls flat, let's say like 3/4 through the rev range, and then it just doesn't do anything. This thing, it just keeps pulling and pulling all the way to the rev range. And that's what you want, because you paid for the whole engine. You didn't pay for 3/4 of it. So, the stock competition tune where it kind of peters out, and then you look at dynos and it just kind of flat lines through that last quarter of the rev range is kind of silly. So this very much alleviates that, and I am so happy about that. And then just take a look at these sport displays here, right? I'm gonna do a pull on it, like, woohoo! I mean, this thing basically maxed out the sports displays. I'm getting to about 560 on the horsepower and 480 on the torque. Now, whether that's real or not, that remains to be seen. I'll have to throw this thing on the dyno and really see. But my butt dyno is definitely telling me that there is a power improvement, and some of these sports displays are kind of backing that up a little bit too. So I am very happy with this tune. And man, having this unlocked DME, this is fantastic. So there you have it. That's a rough overview of the method that I went through in order to put an unlocked DME and tune onto this 2021 M2 Competition. You could also just do the unlocked DME part, right? Get that new DME comes unlocked, and then just like all the prior mid-2020 cars, go get boot mode, MHD, and so forth, and do your tunes that way. I just decided to do it all in one shot, and with all those same identifiers and such as a stock tune, so I wouldn't have any problems later with a dealer or smog or whatever else. And another thing I liked about this method is I didn't have to risk something happening to the actual DME sending this out. It's kind of a pain to take the DME apart, or not apart, rather take the DME out of the car. So it was a lot easier just taking the front electronics module, or FEM, out and sending that out to have some data read rather than the DME itself. So of course the next question is how do you get one of these for yourselves? Well, my friend that did this for me is not necessarily in the business of doing this. That said, he does have a couple more of these MEVD17.2.G DMEs that he can make unlocked for you. So if you are very interested in getting one, willing to pay for it, get in contact with me and I can privately share those details for you. But I'm telling you, they're not going to last very long.